Hello and welcome back, and that's right, it's World Backup Day, the day to remind you, and indeed me and everyone, to get their backups in order. It started as that Reddit thread about, 12 years ago now, where someone was proposing a World Backup Day after they'd lost data on their drive, and they just wished someone had regularly reminded them. And that's why on the 31st of March, the day before April Fool's Day, when people have a tendency to fall for stuff, that the kind of storage community as a whole, all of the data storage providers, manufacturers and more, and everyone associated, get on the World Backup Day bandwagon. In today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the easiest backup methodology you can take on board, and maybe the difference between a backup and redundancy that some of us do make, that little mistake. And I know we repeat it a lot here on the channel, but it's easy to do. And I'm going to be talking through what I think are some of the best, kind of deals floating around at the moment today. Because again, unsurprisingly, whenever an event like World Backup Day comes around, everyone that's got data storage products kind of throws out seasonal offers. That goes to brands, that goes to all that works. And although some of the ones that are on here are very brand specific, as you can see, WD appearing a lot there, some of these are actually surprisingly good. But onto this, you can fast forward hopefully the timeline if you've only come to this video for that. Now, apologies if I'm coming across condescending. I know we're all grown-ups here today. World Backup Day shouldn't be someone spoon-feeding you stuff you already know. And if you've got your backups in order, World Backup Day serves as a lovely means to pat yourself on the back. But if you don't have your backups in order, use this time. Use the opportunities, notwithstanding the offers and deals I'll talk about later on, but take advantage of the fact that a lot of premium platforms are advertising, the ease of backing up. You should really jump on board. Now, the term that's thrown around the industry a lot, I'm sure you've heard of it, is 3-2-1 backup rule. It's when you need to have at least 3 copies of any mission critical or irreplaceable data, with 2 of those copies in different media locations and another one completely off site. That's really, really important. So you may have the data in maybe a NAS, and that NAS backing up onto a USB, maybe onto another NAS, but then they're both on the same location, and you need that data to also be backed up a third-party location, perhaps a cloud or another NAS linked remotely. Now, I said the word NAS there. Of course, if you want to keep things integral, you might move one onto a tape system there. All the NAS brands provide a robust backup software inbuilt into their operating system. With Synology, it's Hyper Backup. In the case of QNAP, it's Hybrid Backup Sync 3. They've all got them, and these backups allow you, these softwares at least, allow you to connect all of these services. For example, I've attached a nice simple Google Drive there. That's some free space, easy to add. I've also added a local storage access point there as well, and if I choose, I can go ahead and add more backups here with more supported services. These include remote NASes that I can bolt on there. These include adding a simple USB drive on periodic backups. I can synchronize with third-party servers and synchronize with cloud platforms. And they can go one further with things like Active Backup Suite from Synology, which then allows you to back up whole system images back and forth. Again, we've already made videos on that. When it comes to cloud storage, again, there are lots of platforms out there getting more and more affordable. Now, yes, I've said for many, many years that people should have their data in-house, or at least controllable, but having both cloud and NAS running side by side in a gateway form with synchronization between them, with the NAS acting as an on-premises bare metal NAS for all of your data, and then outside of that, having a cloud storage to either back up the key files encrypted or the whole system as a bucket, as an image, is a real option. And Backblaze to this day is still one of the very best options out there in terms of backing up all of your data as a whole image, creating buckets internally. And as always, they roll out guides quite consistently on how to back up your data to their platforms, again, encrypted. So it's a very easy way and affordable way to add a second or third tier to your backup strategy. Of course, the amount of data you use is going to be a barrier. Now, when it comes down to how much data you're going to create while doing this, there is the argument that you are now creating data in multiple locations, that someone may have access to it. That's why I keep using that word, encrypted, making sure that you use encrypted tunnels for all of these backups, and more importantly, try to take advantage of some of the newer features and services from newer NAS brand platforms if you're backing up your NAS data. Although Synology have only just started rolling out volume-based encryption and write once, read many technology, brands like QNAP have had that for a long time, and it allows you to create those immutable backups where that data can be backed up to another location and it can't be edited and it can't be changed. On the other hand, if you're a Synology user, you then can still take advantage of Synology's own cloud service, which, although admittedly is more expensive than some of the other ones that are out there, it is integrated a great deal better into the Synology platform than any other cloud platform, because it's all being built side by side. So whether that comes to the individual apps, the system images you're backing up there, or the amount of retention policies and imaging of those backups you're making, they're all rolled in there. Now, to go back into my earlier point when I was talking about backups versus redundancy, one of the keen errors that a lot of users make when it comes to managing their backups is, unfortunately, thinking RAID and backups are the same thing. And here is a classic example of why that is not the case. So with redundancy here, we've got this 2-bay system. We had a couple of 8TB drives inside here, and one of the 8TBs failed. Now, one of these 8TBs failed. This is a test NAS, so I didn't restore it. I wanted to use it for this video because, as you can see, the storage pool is degraded. One of the drives failed. I removed the drive, and I've got to introduce a new drive. Now, during that time, I can still access my data. It's fine. I can still go in, I can go into FileStation, I can access it, and all of my shares are going to be fine. That is that is a safety net. That has meant that when that drive failed, the system is telling me I need to replace that drive. I introduce a new drive, and the RAID will rebuild. But because a lot of people, when they buy hard drives, buy them on bulk from the same supplier that's coming from the same carton, from the same manufacturing plant, there is the possibility that an inconsistency in a drive happened at the point of manufacture and has been spread to the other drives on that production line. So if one of your drives fails, there is that small possibility that the thing that caused the failure will knock over the other drive, and then your data is genuinely gone. So even when you introduced a new drive during the RAID rebuild, there's still that possibility that something can go wrong. So this is why things like RAID are not considered a backup. The same goes for snapshots. With snapshots, your data is maintained over a consistent period of time, and with that, the images of that data that are created with snapshots, with your layout of your data being replicated as changes happen over a certain period of time, as good as that sounds, the fact still remains that if you lose the initial data, or you lose the data in the middle of those snapshots, even if you go for remote replication onto another server, that data's gone. So this really is why you can't rely on things like RAID and other redundancy methods as an alternative to backups. But I think now we've got to talk about the biggest hurdle that most users have about their backup routines, and that is to do with the old bunts, the money. Because, you know, the more data you have, the more you're going to have to spend on these backups. The more you're going to have to spend on cloud space, the more of these USB drives you might back up for a larger one there, which is why, for this part of the video, I've been going through, for the last 12 hours, the best deals I could find that have kind of arisen over the World Backup Day period. This is where the brands have kind of instituted a few little savings there for each of the individual kind of e-sellers and retailers out there that you might shop with. And I'll be straight with you, some of them are rubbish, but they're still rubbish in a cheaper than getting it retail, and now you can have a backup today. But the majority of these are beautiful. So straight away, let's talk about the most affordable backups that I found online. For example, here at B&H, for you guys in the US, $169.98 here, and this is for the 1-bay, the DS120J, with a 4TB drive inside. Doesn't seem like much, does it? It's $170, but this allows you to not only have a Synology NAS with DSM, and it runs DSM 7.2, by the way, something I find insane. But on top of that, for this 170, you've now added 4 terabytes of backup that you can either have within your office or home location or remotely. And for 170 NICA for a Synology product there, with the standard warranty included and the drive as well, and that drive's got data recovery services there, that's pretty darn good as a means to adding backup, to just buy and have that tomorrow to arrive and you've got your backup. The same goes if you want to have one with a little bit of RAID installed, you can go ahead for the same offer, but this time with 2 4TB drives in the 2-bay device. That's got a Realtek ARM based processor, and it's $329, but once again, it's a real sturdy amount of data to be playing with there to add as your backup routine, to, you know, stop worrying about all that data being in one location. Now, I was really looking forward to telling you guys about some absolutely banging deals here. from CCL Online via their eBay outlet, but unfortunately they have now expired last night. I'm including them here because I think we're going to see a few more deals on Synology, which I'll add to the description and the comments at the bottom if I see any more by the end of today. They won't be in this video, but just to give you an example of the kind of offers we're seeing online during World Backup Day, the DS923 Plus there for $515. That's a joke how cheap that is, considering the DS423 is now on offer as well for $441, and that NAS is like 2 weeks old. So moving forward from that, if you're going to go for a robust NAS backup, trying to save some bunts, head over to the WD store in a minute. The WD store is running all kinds of backup day deals, and these are the best 4 I could find. Number 1 here, as you can see, this is the low-end EX2 Plus Ultra. This is an ARM-powered NAS there. It's got 12 TB, so a couple of 6 TB drives inside, and it's 250 NICA. And I will say, this is not a NAS I would recommend for remote access. I would recommend this for local backup, because how much further WD are supporting the software on this with security fixes, I'm not entirely certain. So I wouldn't use this as a remote NAS backup. I wouldn't install this in another build, another location to act as that rsync backup there, that remote backup I should say. I would use this as a local backup in another area of the building to replicate that data somewhere else. Still not truly 3-2-1 backup, but again, 12 terabytes of data. It's a reasonable, pretty decent NAS. It will run WDOS 5 and 6. 249 NICA is pretty darn good for that amount. Now, next, when it comes to USB drives, this is something I'll talk about a lot. I've got a shucking video coming up very, very soon. And these are the best deals I've ever seen for normal hard drives there. So, for example, a 1 terabyte drive there, 27 NICA, and that includes the warranty as well. On top of that, you can go for 2 TB for 35 NICA. And for me, the most impressive, £52 for a 4 terabyte external WD drive. 52 quid to add a 4 TB backup is insane. Do flick through the colours because some of them will show us not in stock, but other ones do. Now, continuing on that subject of storage and data, let's move over here. We've got that tab in the wrong place. For those of you that are backing up for super fast enclosures, because we are hearing about more and more enclosures appearing online that allow you to install M2 NVMEs very, very quickly, this is probably the best SSD one that I saw, and this is a 2 TB WD Black SN850X. That is a 7,300 megabytes per second SSD there for 149 NICA, and that even includes 3 years of data recovery as well. So although this is more of a primary storage drive, for those of you that want a fast backup and you're going to take advantage of maybe USB 4 external backups to get that 40 gigabits per second, that's going to be really impressive to go ahead with. Another WD item there moving forward is this WD 16 TB Elements drive. Now again, this is another one just waiting to be shucked there. It's a single 16 TB drive for 249 NICA, 39% off. I would really say that's about 2025. But for that, you're getting that drive inside. But you've also got the enclosure. So it's whether you want to use it as just a plug-in drive or shuck it and use the drive on its own. There's good and there's bad. More on that video soon. Moving forward, we can talk about Terramaster, because Terramaster is another one of those brands that's always very hot onto any of the seasonal sales. Their 10 TB 5 bay and their 10 TB 2 bay is kind of comically cheap at the moment. 441 NICA for an Intel quad-core powered 10 gigabit Ethernet 5 bay NAS. Again, TOS 5 is very, very good at the moment. It's still not as, I would argue, as mature as the likes of DSM and QTS. But I do know if you're going to use it as a local backup, you're going to be fine. And then you've got a 10 gigabit Ethernet local backup if you choose. Or use it as your primary NAS because you don't have an existing data storage system in place for your backups. Moreover, we've talked about it before. You can flash these with TrueNAS. You can flash them with Unraid. We've got a flash with Proxmox. We've already worked on there, depending on what kind of software and systems you want to run. And again, it's available as a 2 bay 10 GB NAS if you choose. So you've got a very good level of hardware there, and the price point is just silly for what you're getting there. Moving forward, carrying on with Amazon, we can have a look. There's no seasonal deal page there. When it comes to SSD backups, we've got an 8 TB SSD, the Samsung 870. Yes, it seems like a lot of money for 8 terabytes, but it's an 8 terabyte SATA SSD there. And yes, it's using QLC NAND, but it's still able to hit that 500 megabytes per second. And unless you're going to have really daily heavy recurrent writes, you're not really going to have to worry too much about the impact of durability on that drive, unless you really are going to have a high data refresh rate. And that allows you to really add a larger, faster storage drive there. But again, I appreciate that is a more specialist item for many users. When it comes to hard drives, probably one of the best I've found is the Seagate Ironwolf 20TB. Ever since they've refreshed the Ironwolf Pro series with the NT series, which is a little bit more kind of enterprise 550TB write led. We made a video about it just yesterday. The original drive here is going around for silly prices. That's a 20 terabyte drive for $340. It's not a small amount of money, but that is an incredible price per terabyte for that drive. And again, the reviews are very, very good. It arrives with all the data storage, the data recovery service included as well for 3 years. And at that price point, I could not find a better deal at the moment in terms of hard drives. Now, in terms of external drives, we were talking about SSDs earlier. Probably, I've talked about it for a very long time. The little SanDisk Extreme Pro modules are my backup drive of choice. They're incredibly robust. They're fast performing. The warranty's good. I've never had a fail, and I've had quite a lot of them. Now, yes, they can be expensive. We look at this professional Thunderbolt one, and this is what I meant earlier in the video when I was talking about some deals being meh, but from a certain point of view, if you're going to use it, if you're running a photo editing suite, if you're kind of really dealing with high volume projects, and one of your barriers against backups is having your system go into a period of slowdown or inactivity or lower performance during backup operations, that is where a Thunderbolt drive speeds up those backups very, very quickly. Yes, it isn't cheap, but there are still USB 3.2 Gen 2 and even USB 3.2 Gen 2 X2 20 gigabit drives out there that are becoming increasingly affordable. So if you are looking for a local fast backup drive, that's a really good option there. But I wouldn't recommend either of these two drives as a NAS backup drive. I would definitely say these are kind of a sidewind backup to work in conjunction with your existing Target 1 backup. Use these as a Target 2 local backup overall. But that's really it. These are the best ones I've found thus far, and throughout the course of the next day, I'll keep adding them either in the comments or in the description below. Alternatively, I recommend checking out the article that me and Eddie put together on this. It talks about why we kind of do this. Obviously, we do this for fundraising for the site. If your backups are in order, do not buy anything. But if you are looking for those offers that we talked about today, they are available in that article, and we are adding more as soon as we can in the description and in there. But again, don't buy anything you don't need, and do know that if you do use the links in that description, it just gives us a kickback and we carry on doing what we're doing. Alternatively, you can go to the mega thread that Eddie put together that scans every day a whole host of websites for offers that get added there, and these get added either by human beings or automatically by Eddie, and there are lots of savings listed in there and by region for you to check out there. So I do recommend giving that a look. And of course, now towards the bottom, even more offers there. It's a lot to plow through. Again, only do it if you need it. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your tolerance during the length of this video here. We've talked about a subject that frankly we all know about, and I hope someone finds this helpful and just give them the little elbow to get their backups in place today. Have a great World Backup Day, and I'll see you next time.